All right, the 1 to 4 family contract, paragraph 7D, acceptance of property condition. So this is an important paragraph, especially for people who are moving here from out of state, because Texas is an as-is state. So what does that mean? That means when the buyer makes a contract to purchase a property, they're buying that property in its present condition with any and all defects without warranty. Because Texas is as is. That means if we go under contract and then the buyer discovers that there's an issue with the property and the seller was unaware of that condition, that's not going to give the buyer the right to terminate the contract because Texas is as is. In many states, in the law, there's a due diligence period. Let's say it's 10 days. If it's in the law in other states, then there's a built-in due diligence period where the buyer would be able to terminate if they made a discovery that the seller was not aware of. Then they could terminate. Texas is not that way. That's why the buyer, and we need to encourage the buyer to get an option period. So they're going to pay for an option period, right? Whatever is negotiated in the option period, and that will give them the right to terminate the contract for any reason in the negotiated number of days here. Okay, so again, Texas is an as-is state. Because Texas is an as-is state, built into our contract is a termination option that the buyer has to pay for. They must pay for it. If they don't pay for the option period, they do not have the right to terminate that contract. Okay, now let's move on from that part. Now, it's as is except for warranties of title, meaning seller has to give good title, and the warranties in this contract, which whatever is written in this contract. The buyer's agreement to accept the property as is under paragraph 7D, 1 or 2 above, right? Either one of these, does not preclude the buyer from inspecting the property under paragraph 7A. So even though Texas is an as-is state, even though they're going to check off 7D, 1 or 2, they accept the property as is, they can still do inspections on the property. If they have the termination option period, they can still do inspections. It doesn't mean they can't, but what they're doing is if they check off box 1, they're accepting the property as is based on their visual inspections as they saw that property. They didn't see anything that they want repaired at that time. If they did see some things that they wanted repaired or wanted addressed, then they would mark off 7D2. Buyer accepts the property as is, provided seller at seller's expense shall complete the following specific repairs and treatments, right? And then we would write those here. An example, the last contract I did, we went in and the air conditioning unit was not working, right? So we marked off paragraph 7D2. We accept the property based on what we saw, except the AC system isn't working. So seller to have an AC technician come out to the property, inspect and repair, right, and give warranty of repair. We wrote that in there because that's what the buyer wanted. They wanted to make sure that AC system worked. Maybe they saw a broken window, right? We accept the property, but seller must repair the broken window in the master bedroom, right, on the back wall, whatever it is. So if there's anything that you see that needs to be done, maybe trash needs to be removed, maybe the lawn needs to be mowed, whatever it is, that's where you would put that. Okay, and you're accepting it based on your visual inspection of the property while you were there. Okay. Now the other thing is, again, you still can do inspections during your option period and terminate. You can still do inspections during your option period and negotiate repairs. That doesn't mean you can't. Now, notice right here it says, do not enter general phrases such as subject to inspections that do not identify specific repairs or treatments. Subject to inspections doesn't mean anything under the law. You have to be specific as to what you want done. If you want to have an inspection on the property and you want to be able to terminate if you don't like the results, get an option period. Okay? So Texas is an as-is state.